I made it very prominent to all of my classmates that I was not there to be a lawyer. And I had no interest in practicing law, which is a very interesting dynamic.
1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the Automated Lawyer Podcast. I am one of your hosts, John Fritz, and I'm joined with my co-host, Dan Schnurbush. Dan, what's going on today?
You know, John, I am happy to be back. We've taken a little short break here for a couple of weeks. We've been busy. The kids are off school now, and my life is easier again because I don't have to rush out the door in the morning. And I'm surprised how cool it is, though. It's not quite hot enough to turn the water on and just throw them out all day long. But hopefully we're getting there. But doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Same. It was kind of a chaotic transition from the school year and then getting into the summer routine. But I find myself getting an extra 15 to 30 minutes of sleep in the morning because the kids sleep in a little bit, and it's fantastic. I feel like it's paradise getting that extra 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then everybody's just in a happier mood, not going to school and that sort of stuff. So it's really nice.
Yeah.
But so I'm excited for today because we have a special guest. Do you want to go ahead, Dan, and introduce our guest?
Yeah, our guest today is Rachel McGarry. So I met Rachel, I don't know, when was that? 6 months, maybe a year, at some point in the past. And she is now a frequent contributor across all of the tech Facebook pages. She is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom in these areas and works with her mother, Amy McGarry, at the McGarry Law Office in Florida, right?
Yes.
And also dabbling in a few projects of her own. So welcome, Rachel.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I listen to you guys, every couple of weeks. So it's great.
Well, very good. So you said something interesting offline that you went to law school, and you did go to law school. You went to law school with an intention of getting into legal tech. I imagine that puts you in the 0.01% of law school attendees.
Yes.
Tell me about that. How did you even going in? I didn't even know anything about legal tech until after I got out of law school. Everything was here's the here's the 5 fingers of personal jurisdiction and all that crap. That's that was my experience at law school. So tell me about yours. How did you get on that journey? What inspired you, interested you in that?
Yeah. So my mom has been a solo attorney since a couple years before I was born. So she worked out of our house up until even when I was a freshman in high school. So, if I wanted my allowance for the week or if I wanted extra money, I had to be scanning papers, filing stuff, doing whatever, helping her out. So I kind of grew up in the legal world. She does estate planning and elder law. So, I know a good amount about that, but don't ask me too many questions about law because no. But so I grew up with that. And then when my mom wanted to get her first true employee in 2011, she was going to bring on her sister, but her sister lived about an hour away. So she needed to go off of Time Matters as a server and get onto a cloud. So she joined Clio back in even 2011. And I remember helping her set things up and everything because I was always a real tech nerd, even as a kid and everything. I was in tech programs in middle school and high school. So I've always been super interested in that. And then worked for her all of high school, went to college, and I went into college with almost 2 years under my belt. So I started to figure out what I wanted to do with my life kind of early on in my freshman year. And I was asking my mom, what should I do with my life? And she's like, why don't you consider taking the LSAT and just see how it goes? You've worked in the law firm, maybe you want to, go to law school. And I really don't want to be. And she's like, just go get the degree and, see what you can do with it. So took the LSAT, applied for law school, got in, started to the process of going. Then COVID hit. So then I decided to go to a law school right near my hometown. Started during COVID, spent many, many semesters completely virtual, which was very interesting. And during my gap year, I should also mention, between undergrad and law school, I worked as a legal tech consultant for just attorneys, mostly in the realm of estate planning, elder, family, lots of Clio stuff, some other stuff, but mostly Clio. Did a little bit of marketing with them. So yeah, and then went to law school. I made it very prominent to all of my classmates that I was not there to be a lawyer. And I had no interest in practicing law, which is a very interesting dynamic. Even had professors come up to me and ask me about it. But yeah, so graduated law school and everything. And then a few months after graduating, I has still worked for my mom the entire time and opened up my own legal coaching business. And it kind of was, I was coaching people here and there, mostly on Clio, not really getting past the Clio stuff. And then this year in January, I wanted to really take it past just working with people using Clio and optimizing Clio. Now I've really had to focus on like major legal AI, even non-specific legal tools like how Dan and I have talked about Airtable and stuff. So now I'm very happy to say that I'm fully booked I'm at capacity for my coaching clients right now. So I'm very excited about that. I still work full-time at my mom's firm and I do operations here. So luckily I was able to get by with not having to practice any law or do any law. But so I do all of our tech, a lot of our admin, all of our marketing and everything here.
That is, that sounds like a lot of fun. That sounds like if I were to, if I were not the attorney for the firm, would it be if I could just play and do tech all day if somebody else did the law?
If only you could hire somebody to replace you, Dan.
But that seems like a jarring substitution. I put my name on the door, which was a mistake, but I think, what can you do? We'll see. At a pretty good spot at the moment, but very, very interesting. And that had to be interesting going through law school where you're saying I'm not going to be a lawyer, but I feel like you almost need that. You almost need that cred if you're going to be a legal tech consultant. People got to feel like you're one of them and you understand what they need.
Yeah, and that was during my 1L year. I mean, my entire 1L year was completely on COVID. I'd met maybe a few classmates by then, even by the end of 1L, because everyone was online. And, hearing from other people who went to law school, like those 1L friendships you make can really help you get through the entire process of it. So that was a little bit hard. And I remember like talking to my mom and being like, do I really need to like finish this out? And she's like, yeah, like you need the degree because more people are going to respect you with the degree because you went through the same trauma they went through.
That's the trauma.
So,
I love that. I love that characterization. The trauma.
Yeah.
It's like Dan and I are far enough out that we've suppressed all of the law school trauma. So, but I mean that's really interesting though. I mean, because you're basically you went to law school with absolutely no intention of becoming an actual practicing lawyer, but there's probably, and we talked about this online or offline, but there's probably not a whole lot of actual tech involvement in the law school experience. Is that right? Or
yeah, I mean, I did go to a smaller law school, but we only had one really class that was tech related at all, and it was kind of more of like that easy A class that people took. It was completely online, never even met like on Zoom or anything, and it was basically like walking you through how to use like a very outdated Outlook, essentially. So I joined this class super excited, and then I was like, oh my gosh, like what is this? So now I've even been talking and getting in touch with like law school professors, law schools that are already doing AI and talking to those professors and like how did they get into that? What are they teaching? What's the feedback? It's even interesting to hear to them. I just talked to a guy yesterday, and he is starting his first semester teaching at UT Austin. And he was even saying like the interesting feedback from other professors. So I think definitely that it needs to be a conversation in law schools because people who are starting law school this fall, by the time they get out, who knows what it's going to look like. And a firm might not hire them if they have no experience in legal tech.
Yeah. I don't know. Like some of it is, and I've wrestled with this with my wife just on other topics is like, you have this academic institutional knowledge. They accumulate all this understanding about technical knowledge stuff related to, they think about some things more than other people have the time to think about, but they don't actually have to apply it to any concrete situations very often. So, like I'm sitting here thinking, are you ever, is anybody ever going to be able to teach something as fast paced and dynamic as legal technology in an institution where the people who are teaching it don't need to apply it on a regular basis? Like, they're not solving real world problems. It's just abstract. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that, I guess that's where, adjunct professors can come in and lend value. But it's an interesting.
Right. I've been seeing where it's mostly adjunct professors coming in.
I feel like in law school, that was you actually learned the most from the adjuncts that came in and that were actually running law firms, and they just did it as like hey, I want to just help and teach. But Rachel, have you ever thought about actually teaching a law school class on technology and actually going and doing that? Since, you're obviously very passionate about it. And
right now, probably not. I got a lot on my plate currently, but I would love to down the road. I'm definitely, I've reached out to law schools, gotten a couple of responses back about just going and doing just like a talk, in fall to them. But yeah, so
there's a certain hands-onness with adjunct teaching, but at the same time, the scale and reach is so low. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the. So I recently launched the Airtable for Lawyers course. If anybody has any vague passing interest in Airtable and learning how to use it and put together a basic case management system, I have a course now. Just shameless plug.
It's great.
Yeah, I guess Rachel is one of the people that has got through. But I found that to be an easy, low, what's the right word? It doesn't demand endless amounts of your time. And we'll see where that goes for me personally, but that's the method of teaching that works for me, I feel like. But who knows?
I had one professor, and it was my absolute favorite class in law school, and it was a judge that came in, and he taught all about juvenile law, and it was so fascinating, so amazing, because he was just telling about his experiences.
So you're working with at the McGarry Law Office, and you've got this cloud 9 to 5 thing going on. Tell us about that. What's that all about?
So basically, like I said before, last year I was kind of mostly doing helping with Clio build outs, or people who are already using Clio, migrating over to Clio, or getting on there and everything, being able to use it better. So since January, I've started to do more of like a monthly coaching structure where clients can hire me, and it's just on a month-to-month basis. And then we work on their goals. So obviously, my goal is that they're, we're with me long-term, but if they want at any time, if they're like, we're good, or maybe want to take some time off, like that's totally cool. But basically I do like a very long form that for them to fill out, and it covers everything I could think of. Because I would rather have all the information with me than wasting, time getting it from them. Obviously, I talk through everything they've put in the form, but just as, we do at the law firm with our clients, having them fill a questionnaire to get all that basic information. So, and then I do a long onboarding session with them, kind of just discuss the goals. And then basically from there, all of our sessions are working on a goal. So instead of someone coming to me and being like, hey, can you build out my Clio? Or, hey, can you create automations for intake? I'm like, okay, why though? What is the overall goal? Because maybe that's not the best idea. Or maybe there's another tool that you can use. Or maybe you're using a tool you don't even know can do that now. Because I swear tools are coming out with new features every single day. But I want to figure out the goal, because then also you see the results a lot better. If you're just creating an automation just to create automation, you don't really see the results for your firm. So I try to really stay goal oriented, because, if your goal is to get more clients, okay, then how can we work towards doing that? And then when they get more clients, they will see the result of that.
I like to say that you should stay goal oriented with automation. And I think most people should, but I don't follow that practice very well. Last week, I built an automation that will take bank statements, and it will extract a bunch of data about the bank statement. So like, who's the bank? What's the month statement? What was the previous balance, the future balance? and it will extract all of the entries on the bank statement, like in expenses, income, whatever. And then it will output that. And then you can put it in like sheets or whatever. I have like a vague idea of what I would use it for, but it was mostly just for fun to see if I could do it. And but in general, yes, it should be very goal directed. Very important thing.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, you're also helping other attorneys. So like even on like my own free time, I'm also just creating random automations. But it's for research purposes.
Research. Exactly. That's a nice way to put
Research,
it. R&D.
goals research.
Can I write that off as like an R&D like tax credit or something? I need somebody to look into this.
So Rachel, I'm interested about obviously you're helping law firms on the Cloud 925 side, and then you're also the COO of your mom's law firm, right? And helping with all the tech and everything involving in that. I guess what has been one of the biggest kind of introductions in tech for your mom's law firm? Like I'm assuming you spend probably a good amount of time automating that law firm, right? And kind of updating and doing systems and all that sort of stuff. So in the last like couple of years, like what have you like focused on your mom's law firm? And have you seen kind of this similar or same focus when it comes to working with other attorneys, or how does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, working at my mom's firm, and now, I mean, we are now a team of about 14 or 15 now of us. So we've definitely grown. So it's interesting. I've seen a lot of different stuff, a lot of things that my mom has had issues in the past that, we've worked through are a lot of the same issues that I see in my clients right now. So we're able to work through those, or, it's something similar, or I've talked to other attorneys who have had similar issues, and I hear how they got through it, or, I just brainstorm and, try and figure it out. But I do, I mean, as much as I'm here in the office 40 hours a week or whatever it is, I still, if I could get this firm paperless, I would, but there's still papers flying. Like, I get that struggle of not being perfect in a legal tech world. And I really explain that to my clients that, like, you're not going to go paperless in a year. Like, we can all think that, but you're not, especially if you don't want to. So even I was talking to our associate attorney, and we were working on task management and stuff. And I was like, let's work on this new tool. But if you don't like the tool, you're not going to use it. So then we'll find a new tool for you to use. Because I've learned that if someone doesn't like the tool, they're not going to use it. So
that's a great point.
Yeah. And I've definitely learned the difference between like when you're doing like looking for people who are more tech focused and everything, if that is your firm identity essentially by now.
Yeah.
Has there been any specific pain points, I guess, with that you've seen either at your mom's law firm or at other attorneys' law firms that you're helping, right? Is it like, when it comes to, is everybody just like, hey, I just want to add AI and I don't know how to do it? Or is it like, hey, I have this problem with intake that I need help with? Is it kind of, what does that look like when it comes to like pain points that you're seeing from other law firms?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, working here for however long, I've seen so many pain points come through the office. Definitely, client intake, as you were saying, AI, even just getting my other team members to use AI. But I have been seeing a lot of, normally when my clients come to me and they find me, they know I'm in AI, so they're more open to it. But other law firm owners I've met at conferences or like bar conventions or whatever it is, a lot of them have a big issue with the idea of AI. I mean, one of the great things is because I did go to law school is I now know a lot of baby attorneys, right? So I'm always asking all my friends like, oh, like, what tech do you guys use at the office? Like, how do things run? Like, are you good in a workflow? And it's interesting to see the dynamic between even like smaller law firms or solo to small to mid to large. I mean, one of my good friends works at a mid-sized firm, about 50 attorneys, and they have absolutely no project management system. They barely have like a shared drive. And it boggles my mind. And then I see other law firm owners still on time matters. And then I see people like Dan who are creating their own systems. So it's so diverse in what is going on in the legal field right now.
Yeah. What I've seen, and as somebody listening who maybe at a big firm can correct me, but what I feel like I've seen at a lot of big firms, especially the real big firms, is that they work in so many different practice areas that it becomes almost impossible to develop a singular system to encapsulate everything that's going on. And as a result, they end up just kind of fracturing into like different micro departments. Like, oh, these 4 people work on, deeds and whatever, or like
Right.
corporate transactions, and these 4 people work on trusts and estates, and they have little to no overlap and little to no coherence between the systems because they're almost just micro units working underneath this brand umbrella.
Right.
And I've thought a few times about like, well, if I was trying to help a big firm, where would I put them? And the immediate fallback is like, well, maybe something that is designed to be just basic, just flexible, like a Clio. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't know if I'd say like my case, but like a Clio or something like that that's been around a while, but has that kind of, it doesn't do everything. In fact, it doesn't, arguably up until recently didn't do anything other than store data. But I think they finally have automations, like basic automations in Clio.
They do. They have 3.
3 automations. Holy cow. That's
All things you could have done on Zapier years ago.
well, there you go. That is something that I have since given lots of props to Clio for. They have a great API. It seems like
They
spent
do. They do.
all
They
of
have a
their
great
dev
API.
effort on the API, having every function you could imagine available through the API and through Make or Zapier or whatever. And if you didn't know it was there or didn't know how to use it, like you're sitting looking at Clio like, where's the automations? It's because it was built for you to build the automations externally, which is
Right.
a development effort choice. But
Dan, you've come a long way on Clio, that's for sure.
have-
a real long way.
I've gotten a lot more friendly ever since I learned how to like actually use APIs and gotten better with make.com, especially. I'm like, oh, now every time I look at a new software, I'm like, what's their API documentation look like? And
Right.
um,
Well, even like, because we're building out our Airtable, selflessly plugging for Dan, his course. But as we're building out our Airtable at our firm, because we're going off of Clio. So we're going off of Clio Drive. We've now on OpenPhone too. So I'm looking at, and every time I'm looking for something new, like we're now obviously going off Clio Drive. So now I'm looking at SharePoint, which I started with because we're a Microsoft firm, which is my own pain point here. But I started working with SharePoint and their API is terrible. Or like I had to there was like a different system I would have to like buy essentially. And it was pretty expensive. I'm like, this is not saving money, or not even just saving money, but does not seem feasible. Right. So I was like, scrap SharePoint. And then I was looking between Dropbox and Box. And Dropbox, their AI features are only beta, only for certain people. And their API is not great. But how are they going to give me a free trial if that's what I want to try? So I ended up going with Box, and their API is phenomenal so far.
Good. Yeah, Box was one of those things that like came out years ago, and it was like all the rage early on. But at the time, like Google Drive Workspace wasn't really fully matured yet, and neither was Microsoft 365 with OneDrive and SharePoint and all that. Those weren't fully matured yet. And Box was like one of the best things you could do for legal. And I think they took security more seriously than
they do.
Than other.
But yeah, that was an issue with Dropbox, I think, was the security issue, right? I remember there was a big article about that. And
Yeah. But one of their biggest things, and I remembered, and I forgot about this, but I remembered it from, I was really involved in graphic design in high school, is Box, like most of their paid plans are completely unlimited storage. So we use Box when we were doing graphic design because those files can be so big. And when we were I was looking at the terabytes we're already using on Clio Drive, and I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to need some kind of unlimited or high-end storage.
Yeah, because I think on the like $7 a month plan, you get like 2 terabytes a user or something. We've not even dented that. It's all just Word files and PDFs. But if you're like a firm using, storing a lot of video, like criminal defense, and you've got like a bunch of video files of like offenses and stuff like that, like I could see that getting chewed up real quick.
I mean, we have all of our files back from when my mom started.
So do you have any examples? Like, have you ever built something in the firm and you're like, damn, that is cool, and it works just as I was hoping it would? Does anything like that like jump to mind? I don't.
I really think that honestly, the coolest thing I'm going to build is this Airtable. And I feel like it's just like so long in the making of like, for so long, I was trying to just think of automations I could do in Clio that wouldn't work great, or they just wouldn't do what I wanted to do. Or one of my biggest complaints at our firm is everyone hated that they would have to go to different things to find everything. Like I'll build cool stuff, but it might be on a different platform. Like I built out really cool tables and automations using Monday. And then I found out that only my Medicaid paralegal was using it.
Yeah.
And like, okay. Yeah. And everyone's like, forget to go over there. So, and that's when I was looking for something and I saw Airtable, I can build essentially Monday within Airtable. And they were all like, yeah. They're all so excited when I see them like on the big screen during our team meetings, what's going on. And, but yeah, so I definitely think that's going to be like game changing.
I'm really excited to see how that matures and continues to what your experience is developing that out and getting that implemented. Because the flexibility is crazy. We've one of the things I finished up a couple of weeks ago is this phone system, and this started kind of not a kerfuffle, but an interesting dialogue in the legal tech group, because we use OpenPhone and they generate AI transcripts for you from every phone call, and you can access those through the API and Meg. And I was passing them through ChatGPT and having ChatGPT doing a bunch of analysis on it, like if it's a sales call, did we follow like sales protocol? Give us a score on it. What was this caller sentiment? What did they call about? Here's a summary. Extracting all this information and providing analysis and summary on those, and then dumping it into an Airtable base. So we have a dashboard that kind of shows call quality and all that stuff, which is I find really, really cool. But it started this interesting discussion about what are our ethical obligations in terms of recording and disclosure of the use of AI and all that stuff. And I am very, what's the right word?
Liberal.
My interpretation is that none of the ethics rules in anything apply to any of it. And I don't know if I'm ever going to be vindicated on that. But it started.
I'm the opposite of Dan.
You guys are in a one-party consent state, though, for recording, right?
Yeah, for wiretap purposes, yes. Missouri is a one-party consent state.
Yeah, but here's the deal, and I've actually looked into this recently. Some of the stuff talks about what if Dan, when you were calling somebody in Florida, okay, and let's just say hypothetically that Florida is a two-party consent state. Well, then which state law applies? And then it's like, well, some say that the state where the call is being recorded at applies, and some say that it should be if a two-party state is involved, that a two-party applies. There's all this craziness, and it's like some of it's kind of ambiguous, honestly. And I'm like, I'm gonna start recording stuff just because I want the transcripts. And I want like a good CYA for the firm. Like, we had a call on this date. Here's my transcript. Here's what was said, right? Because you run into that, 6 months down the line. Well, you never told me that. And as much as we go in and log notes on calls, I want to get rid of that, and I want it to go in there. So I'm just going to include a snippet of me at every call that says, this call may be recorded.
Yeah. There you go.
And at every call that goes in and out. Yeah. And I'm covered on all those rules. So I think, Dan, that's the easiest thing for you to do and anybody to do is just simply have your phone system include that information on every call that goes out and comes in, and then you can record away and transcript away, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's
it's funny you say that.
For two-party consent states. Does it get you in trouble? Does it count as jurisdiction? Like, does it only a problem if I go to a two-party consent state? Are they going to put me in cuffs as soon as I get there? You recorded a call. But it's very interesting questions I don't know the answer to, but
what do
you
think,
Rachel? You say the recording, because if you call our office right now, like the law firm, right before it beeps, it's my voice saying this call is being recorded for note-taking purposes, and then it starts ringing because we want it. Because at first we were saying, just remind everyone you're calling, and then I was like, okay, wait, no, there's got to be a better way to do this. So again, just having the call tree in OpenPhone, and it just my voice says that, and then it goes into the calling, and then we've also added it to all of our all of our legal agreements, like representation agreements, saying that our calls were being recorded. And then after that, I was like, wait, well, what about people who are coming in for initials or just other people calling? So now when someone schedules an initial appointment as well, part of their welcome email also says they will record calls and also meetings as well.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I put something in our engagement that basically says we use AI. Because if you look at, I think it's ABA opinion, was it like 512 or something like that, where they talk about use of generative AI. And like a lot of people are out there saying, oh, 512 says you need to be disclosing, you need to be explaining to everybody. And I'm like, that's not exactly what 512 says. And 512 talks about, because if you read through 512, it talks about, it makes this big assumption that you're putting stuff into a model that will be trained on client data. And that then somebody else could go and query the model and say, hey, what's Jim Smith's social security number? And get a correct response back. That's not how these work. If you have training off.
Well, that's not how it's not maybe how they might work. It's what they're telling you how they work. Right. So, so Mike, that's a great point, Dan. And I know Dan is very liberal in that, and I'm super conservative where I redact everything that goes into ChatGPT. If it's a bank statement or anything, I at least redact off the account number and the name, right? The rest of the stuff is jibber jabber for purposes of reproducing, right? But what are your thoughts on putting in information into ChatGPT, whether it's through the backend API or through like a paid Teams model where it doesn't train? It says it doesn't train, but where do you fall in on putting client confidential information into ChatGPT for purposes of analysis?
Me or Dan?
You, Rachel. I know Dan's position.
Right. I would say that as long as it's closed, I'm decently okay with it. I still probably wouldn't put a social in there. But our firm also only takes socials if it's absolutely necessary, and then we delete it once we don't need it. But we do have an RV agreement that we use AI. We do let our clients know, and if they have questions about it, and I've told my associate attorney, that like if a client asks you a question you don't know how to answer it about AI, just bring me in the room and I'll go and calm them about it. But essentially, I'm just telling them like it's only going to better your experience with us, and only going to be able to give you a better work product and experience with us. So I would say that maybe I'm in the middle, because obviously when you're using Make and doing APIs and you're putting, let's say, an email through a generative AI so it can figure out what the client matter is, so it can automatically save that client matter where it needs to, that client email into that matter where it needs to go. Obviously then you are going to have to be putting some kind of client data in there. But again, my biggest thing is if you are using some free version of AI, it's not secure.
Yeah.
So no. And I do think that there's obviously legal generative AI tools that are built for lawyers that also are more secure, or if you do want that extra security purposes and everything.
Yeah, I guess I feel more comfortable when it goes through, I mean, as opposed to being through OpenAI or ChatGPT. If it's like, oh, I'm Microsoft that's creating this, like, and there, it has a reputation for security, or some sort of a software that's being built for lawyers that is reputable, like a case management system type thing. But I know Dan's gonna say like, hey, they're the same.
Yeah, I mean, all
when you're going through the API, but it's just I think my uncomfortability will be solved in the next 18 months. I think when it comes to that sort of approach, I think that there'll be a gold standard, and I think people will say, okay, it's reasonable to rely on this gold standard for security, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to go the way of cloud computing, is that everybody's going to be very cautious and suspicious of it at first, and then it's just going to gradually become completely ubiquitous, and it won't even be a question anymore within a couple of years, or hopefully a couple of years. Paper folders, so maybe it'll take longer than that.
There's still a lot of people on servers.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah, servers which probably aren't actually anywhere near as actually secure as being in the cloud, and being served through Amazon's software.
Right. I had to make that argument.
Being in a hurricane-prone area, servers are very interesting to me.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Speaking about AI, Rachel, what are some use cases that you're excited about right now in using AI? And I know you talked about this basic stuff like emails and stuff, but like where are you what are you working with AI with, and like what are you excited about when it comes to like actually like solving an issue for a law firm, whether it's intake or whether it's, you know, task management or something? What do you get excited about when it comes to projects?
I would say that, so I do have to give credit. So I don't know if you guys have ever read the book AI Driven Leader, but
Okay.
it is truly an amazing book. I read it in like 2 days, and it is a really, really good book. And it kind of helps you train your mind to think using AI at all times, essentially. Like, instead of saying like, how can I do this? How can AI help me do this? So after reading that book, I mean, before I had a decent idea and I was using AI a bunch, but after reading that book, it kind of made me even open up my eyes a bit more and think, okay, like really anything, you know, like I can be using AI even in my personal life. You know, I can put in all my groceries and or take a picture of my fridge and have it make me a meal. You know, I mean, we've been talking about renovating our kitchen. So I upload a bunch of pictures of my kitchen and had it show me how I should renovate it. But I think that if you have a question, just put it into AI and see what happens. I also think that prompt engineering is super important. Obviously, like I'll see one of my team members or another attorney or whoever be putting something into a generative AI platform, and they're just asking a simple question, or they might not even be explaining it enough. And I think that OpenAI, especially with all of their different models, have become so powerful that it can do so much. I mean, obviously there's still hallucinations, but it can like really do so much for basically anything you want it to do.
Yeah. I've found that especially with the newest reasoning models like O3. O3 is ridiculous. But like Grok 3 is also very, very powerful. And Gemini, like I've been sleeping on Gemini and not giving them enough attention, but I've started, because we are a Google Workspace. Like if you log into Google Drive, or, you know, we use Google Chat, we use Gmail. It's like, it has Gemini now as a sidecar in every Google app. And you can ask it like, hey, find me that email where I was talking with Jane about this or whatever. And it will in seconds find the email and summarize it for you. Like you don't have to go like searching with like natural language keywords and stuff. Like it just knows based on like context. Even if you don't know the right words to look for, it understands what you're talking about. And like finding documents, like sometimes stuff gets moved around or put in the wrong place or saved in the wrong place or whatever. It's like, hey, I need to find the death certificate for Jim Jones or whatever. And in seconds, boom, it's like, oh, it got saved in this weird downloads folder. It didn't make it into the file for some reason, but here it is. Or I found it in this email from 3 months ago or whatever. And here it is. And it's just super, super cool. And what really crushed my soul was I had some old, and like there may be some like lawyers that this will make their skin crawl, but I had some old medical records from a PI case, a defense PI case from years ago. And I used to have to spend hours and hours and hours in insurance defense, like summarizing medical chronologies and reading through medical records manually and extracting all this stuff. And so I had like a 400-page old PDF, not subject to HIPAA. We're just playing around. It's a secure workplace, yada, yada. But I was like, can you make a medical chronology out of this? And it looked at it for like 2 seconds and spit out a medical chronology and summarized the course of treatment and everything. I was like, geez Louise, what? It's just,
yeah, like we need plaintiffs lawyers' jobs to be that much easier, so that their hourly rate can go from $10,000 an hour to $50,000 an hour.
How are you going to justify that 33%?
Well, I mean, the risk. I get it. I've been using the 04 Mini a lot. Like that's my new jam, and I've been using it recently for like a lot of like ethical questions. Like I have questions like, hey, I had this situation with a client where the client was a former estate planning client who died, and now the son, who is also a former client for a separate matter, wants a copy of dad's entire estate planning file. What can I legally provide, right? And it's crazy. I mean, like the ethical questions, and asking it to go search the Missouri rules of professional conduct and provide examples, and it's really great. I mean, it gives a really great analysis from that perspective, and it's like, So I've been using that and just pretty
Yeah.
much any legal question. And it's, you know, I'm sad to say that Eleanor has already become extinct.
Yeah.
And she's, you know, she's getting aged
Yeah.
out, because she can do the one thing I trained her to do, which was give me what the actual probate path is. You know, here's variables, tell me what the best probate procedure is going to be to reduce expenses, fees, costs, and be the fastest. She can still do that, but all her research capabilities have now been just blown out of the water by O4 Mini. So
Yeah.
that's all I use for that.
It is incredible, like how quickly things that we're building become obsolete in this AI world right now. Because I built from like a GPT, and it's like you said, it's not relevant anymore because like you can't even set as far as I know, you can't even set GPTs to the most recent models. So like your and O3 can just go browse the O4 can just go browse the internet and pull everything you need in seconds. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I don't need this database anymore. So.
I know.
Well,
I'm
it's
like
because
so
we were
worried.
walling it off.
I'm so worried about
Yeah,
like
I'm
going
so-
out on cruise for a week, having no internet, and like coming back and everything's completely different.
Yeah, it is.
They have internet on the cruises.
There you go.
We got
I
plenty
know
of
I'm going on
internet.
a 3-day cruise in 2 weeks, and I was like, yeah, no, I think I need the internet. I feel like I don't know.
So
What if something happens?
what's your prediction for the next couple of years? I heard a very interesting it was a clip from a video of Wall Street Journal and New York Times reporters bashing Sam Altman of OpenAI. They were saying this guy's just an amazing salesman, but he keeps talking about all these revolutionary changes that are coming. And where are those revolutionary changes? So that's kind of the gist of the quote. Is they were teasing him for basically promising this utopian future, and it's not here yet. To me, that was is a silly criticism. What's your take on that kind of thought process? What do you think is coming? What do you think is here now, and what do you think is coming?
So I would say that, I mean, generative AI has really only been a thing, especially for the public, for a little bit of time.
Mhm.
So for anyone criticizing that there's no utopian future yet, this is still going a lot faster than most other inventions, right? I mean, look at how long it took the telephone to become this big. I mean, like, I don't know what people were thinking. Obviously, this is going faster because it's learning from itself, just using itself to get better every day. I think it's something that honestly, we have no idea what it's going to look like, even in 6 months, even a year. Because if you would have asked me 6 months ago, the things that, Orpho Money can do, I would be astonished. Or everything that Google released last week is crazy, everything it can do.
What did Google
The
release?
VOs
I need to look into. Sorry, carry on.
No, you're good. Actually I posted on my Cloud 925 about like all the major Google releases that attorneys should look at and why. So there's my plug. But I mean the VO3 can create now like movies, which is insane.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna disrupt so many industries in the next year.
Yeah. Have you seen those, John? The VO3 AI movies from Google?
I have
Oh
not.
my God, you got to Google
What I want to do.
Google some clips.
I'm waiting for the avatar technology to, basically be so real that you can't tell if it's me or an AI bot. And then that way I can just basically have AI create its own synthetic information and then create a script and then plug it into the bot who then produces a video and then it's chopped up and then all it does is here's the topic and then it produces content. That can be liked and followed, right? But
Gary,
no, I have not seen the movie piece though.
VO3, it's totally unbelievable if you just Google the videos. Most of them are like short clips, but they look like completely realistic. Humans, like their mouths and voices and everything move completely realistically. I mean, I don't know if you'd have to string together like sequences to make a whole movie out of it. I think the max duration is like
It only does like short clips right now.
Yeah, but compared to like the Will Smith eating pasta from like 8 months ago or whatever it was, where he like looked like some kind of like terrifying monster. It's just ridiculous. So
I mean, but looking at how the Will Smith video to the VO3 videos in 8 months is insane. I mean, like, what are we gonna have in 8 months from now?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. I've been working on my pet project has been this AI voice agent that I've finally been trying to like actually finish building and deploy, and it's been up for a couple of days now.
If I call the firm, is it live, Dan, or no?
What's that?
If I call the firm right now, is it live? Or
It would have
no?
been yesterday. I
Okay.
shelved it for a couple of bug fixes that came up during it that I needed to figure out what's going wrong. And initial impressions, it is very cool, especially when you develop enough tools that it is actually like capable of replacing a person's like abilities. Very cool. One thing I have noticed though is people notice. People notice more quickly than I thought they would have that it's not a
Right.
person, and it affects
So why
their.
don't you just disclose that?
What's that?
Why don't you just disclose it? Hi, I'm Sarah.
Yeah.
I'm the AI receptionist here at Dan's law firm. How can I help
Yeah,
you?
maybe
Right?
that-
And then there's no.
You're absolutely right. Maybe that's the way to deal with it, because I have noticed a couple of times like the conversation will start off good and like everything will be going fine, and then some weird little hiccup will happen and the person realizes it's not real, and then you can hear their like tone of voice fall and they realize, oh, I'm talking to a robot, and then they become more procedural, like back and forth, instead of like, the kind of dynamic emotional stuff that you have when you're talking to a real person. And I don't like that. So I was like, I don't know.
I wonder what it would be interesting to look at, like based on a real person, especially if they're noticing, even if they weren't noticing, what the close rate is, or whatever they're trying to do,
Yeah.
or even just if someone hangs up on them. I think that so many people. I mean, even like my mom. My mom was like, I do not want the voice agent right now. She's like, because I know that if I call like AT&T, they're going to try and give me some voice agent or whatever. And I think so many people are now accustomed to those older voice agents that like
Yeah.
can't do anything
Yeah.
and
one.
can only give you an extension.
Right.
So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I have never talked to a voice agent at any other company before. I don't think anybody is really rolling them out yet. Mostly because I don't think most people know that they exist, let alone
Right.
how to roll them out.
My prediction is that it's going to be that the voice agent is going to be the biggest disruptor in any industry for the first industry when it comes out, is because you have all these call centers. I mean, it's basically taking, it's a job that requires a single human to do, right, for that job. And automating that is going to be a massive disruptor. And I think that we're very close. And I think that people will eventually be okay with it. Instead of talking to somebody, they just call and say, hey, what's the fastest way to book a consultation? Well, I don't care if it's a robot or a human. I'll tell them my information. They plug me into a calendar. This is great. I think that the response is going to be like that very soon.
Yeah. And that was my take on it going in. Like I figured, hey, nobody's going to care. They're just going to want to get their consult booked. And so far, the handful of calls that we did have go through it, that was what happened. They took the call, they booked the call, everything worked according to plan. We did have a couple of like tool call failures where the scheduling got busted and I figured out why and I fixed it. But we had a backup protocol where it was like, if the scheduling fails, that will text them the booking link, and people received the booking link and then they used it and they scheduled and it was fine. But, so there's like ways around any errors, but I don't know yet how I feel about it. I feel like I need more data, more A/B testing data to like feel, does it matter? Because in ours, it is purely reception, purely scheduling. They're screening leads, and that is one takeaway I've had so far, is they're very good at screening, like following detailed screening protocols. They can do it. If you use a smart enough.
Are you using OpenPhone or using their new voice agent?
No, I'm using
Okay.
Retail AI. OpenPhone. The problem with OpenPhone is that its agent doesn't have any tools. It doesn't have any connection.
Right. That's why I was confused. I didn't know if they had just released like a scheduling tool or something.
No, Retail AI is what I've been using, and it has an integration with Cal.com, which is a Calendly competitor. It's better than Calendly. It's same price, but it has a way better API. Anyway, so it has an integration.
I also wonder about people calling in, especially, I mean, I know you guys both do probate. We do probate at our office. Kind of those more like sensitive things of people calling in, like sometimes people call in with an intake call and, they're really upset. Someone just died. They could be crying. They could be at the hospital. And I wonder like how that would go for them on picking a law firm when they call and they hear someone from AI and they, don't feel that warmness if they can tell.
I think it varies because we're comparing it to Smith AI as an outsourced receptionist. So like the bar isn't that high to begin with. Like, no offense to
Yeah, we
AI.
use Smith AI
They-
too, so I can
Yeah,
attest to that.
no offense to Smith, they do a great job for what they do, but it is certainly not the same as
Yeah.
like having a full-time in-house person who's trained in your procedures and all that. But at the same time, when we're talking about voice agents, we're talking about something that is less than a tenth the cost of Smith AI and
Right.
probably a thousandth the cost of a full-time person in that role. So,
Yeah.
Looking at it from a pure cost standpoint, it's obvious, it's a no-brainer kind of thing. But
I think we would use it. We would use it as a backup though. So we have an intake specialist who answers all of our calls. But when she's on the call with somebody else, or there's at lunch or on the weekends, I think that's our use case is have it say, hey, I'm so and so the AI scheduler for the weekend. We'd love to blah 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 get you plugged in for next week and like what and then they can kind of take that route. So as a backup, but not as a full time. But I think we'll get there eventually. I think in 6 months to a year, I think people will be deploying full time AI receptionists that are the front lines. I mean, I don't see why they if it keeps moving. So
It's interesting that you say about having it on the weekends and the nights because we've been at our firm, we have a full-time in-house receptionist. And we've been trying to decide if we want to do an after-hours receptionist company. We tried a couple out. We just didn't love them completely, especially since we are in the more sensitive matters, kind of like you guys. But I know on Google for their SEO that if you have hours instead of open 24/7, they're actually like knocking you, except I think now they're saying they're not, but it's been proven that they are knocking you if you're not truly open 24/7. And someone could test that and then report you to Google if you don't answer your phone on a weekend. So I think that then those kind of agents would then help.
Yeah. Overall, I'm very impressed with the technology. I think it's 95% of the way there. If I can get it, and what I'm finding is it's taking more engineering and like tweaking than I was expecting. Just like sometimes it'll make just bad, kind of questionable judgment. Like for example, we had one the other day where somebody was calling in to confirm an appointment, and the model was trying to have them go through the entire, they were calling back in follow up to a previous appointment and wanting to schedule another follow up meeting, and the model was thinking that it was treating them like a brand new lead and trying to put them back through the full screening, which a human, I think, would have realized they don't need, that's already happened. They don't need to go through this. Like the model, you have to explicitly tell it that. Like if somebody's calling in to confirm an appointment, they have already been through screening. Don't screen them again. Like you have to spell that out to them, spell that out to the model, or it will sometimes make, so like,
are you doing any kind of like conflict checks or, anything like making sure that the decedent lived in Missouri or whatever it may be?
Yeah, so it does all the screening. So it'll check like were they either living here or had assets here? Is there a litigation screen? There's a fee screen, like here's our minimum. Is that okay? Should we go ahead and proceed? There's like 6 or 7 little checks that it does to see, and it will have a different decline or referral depending on what the outcome of that is. So it's I've been using GPT 4.1, which is really, really good. Claude Sonnet 3.7 can also do it pretty well. They're fine at following those detailed long prompt instructions throughout a conversation. So pretty cool. All right. So we are coming up on time. Let us shift gears here. Every time we have a show, we have a tip of the week. I will go first. Again, another shameless plug. A couple of weeks back, I launched the Airtable for Lawyers course. If you're interested in Airtable and you're trying to learn the basics of it, check us out in the Facebook group. I think there's like a pinned post or something that'll take you to the landing page for it. Rachel's taken it. If you're interested in it, give it a check, try it out. Happy to help if you have any questions about anything. So that's my tip of the week. Got anything, John?
Rachel, you want to jump in? No, you want me to go? I can go.
So,
Go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you don't know where to start on automations or you don't know what's hurting in your office, something that I always like doing is dumping all of your processes. Number one, you should dump all your processes into a custom GPT anyways, because then you can ask it things. But another thing is help it find bottlenecks, help it find maybe even overlaps in your tools, or help it find breaks in something, and help it help it teach you, act like it is like your own personal consultant for that specific practice area even.
I love that. And something just came to mind, Rachel, is that I'm going to, as a prompt, I'm going to ask the 4.1 or the O4 Mini and just simply, here's my current tech stack. This is what I'm
Right.
using it for. And then just ask it, where am I having overlaps in my tech stack? Where can I potentially reduce something in my tech stack? Or is there something out there that would better complement a different process? I think that's just a great starting point, especially when you're like, where do I start with automations? What's my end goal, et cetera? But I think that's probably a pretty cool, feature analysis.
I definitely think
So I
so.
like
Yeah.
that. My tech tip of the week is obviously it's ChatGPT related. With the O4 Mini model, I've been just playing with that a ton. The most recent thing is it's like, my question is like, I want to hire somebody, like here's a role I want to hire. Can I use ChatGPT to supplement that role or to basically stay that role for a period of time, right? So I want to hire like a fractional COO, somebody who's, been in the business and can, provide insight on hiring people. I have a fractional CFO who's really great and does all the numbers and everything and tracking metrics and KPIs, but I wanted more of the operations side, right? So I was dumping a lot of information and saying like, basically like, when can I hire I really want to hire an attorney to replace me because I am the bottleneck. I know I'm the bottleneck. Like, but what does this look like? How much revenue do I need? Like, here's how much time people are working. Here's our cost structure. Here's our flat fee structure. Here's how much revenue producing each year, per person. And then doing all these metrics and then asking it questions like as like a fractional COO. And it's been really, really interesting on the responses. Giving the actual nitty gritty details about, hey, this is your revenue projection. This is what you need to make each month in order to hire another attorney to basically replace yourself. And so it's been really cool playing with it like that.
Very, very nice. All right. Well, that's it for this week, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, go ahead and run over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review so that other people can find us. If you want to take the conversation offline, join us in the Legal Tech Collective Facebook group where we talk about AI and automation and stuff like that every day. And Rachel, before we let you go, what would be if somebody wants to get in touch with you for your consulting or for any other purpose, what would be the best way to reach you?
Email or any of my social media. You can find me at Cloud925 on any of the social media. I'm really active on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So
very cool. Very cool. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show. John, good seeing you again.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.
Bye, guys.
Thanks again, Rachel. Appreciate it.
Take care.